This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by Sip Coffee House 2 in Highland, Indiana on Jewett Avenue. Great coffee, lattes, smoothies, and more. Food and treats you will adore. Small town charm with big city selection. It's Sip Coffee House 2.
Hello, and welcome to LGBTQ Northwest Indiana and PFLAG Crown Point Northwest Indiana TV, episode number 13.
We come to you every 2 weeks on Thursday, currently airing from 8 to 9 p.m. Central.
We would like to thank our producer, The Bill and Callie Show, as well as The Bill and Callie Show sponsors. My name is Amari Victoria, Executive Director of LGBTQ Northwest Indiana, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
I'm Elizabeth Menning, President of PFLAG Crown Point, Northwest Indiana, and my pronouns are she, her, hers as well. We'd like to introduce a special guest tonight, our point of contact for other TV guest outreach. Her name is Leah, and Leah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Leah Van Keppel. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a volunteer for LGBTQ Northwest Indiana and PFLAG Crown Point.
We really love having a volunteer.
I love to be here.
And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
We're actually very lucky. We have a little group of volunteers and interns that we'll be introducing you to throughout this show. Not today, but as time goes on.
Remember, whether you identify as LGBTQ, as lesbian, gay, bi or pansexual, transgender, queer, or questioning yourself, consider yourself an ally, know someone who is LGBTQ, or know someone who wants to learn how to be an ally. This show is for you.
All right, so our first opening segment is our plug for the Indiana Quit Line.
The Indiana Quit Line, if you are interested in smoking or tobacco cessation in your life, the number is 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Right, earlier this week, the governor of Indiana came out with a new declaration regarding COVID-19.
Some of the restrictions that had been in place are now and taken back are now restored to most of the counties in Indiana. So please be kind, be compassionate, be smart, wear a mask. Look at the mandate at coronavirus.in.gov, and let's all protect each other.
Great, thank you. And this has been a special week, Transgender Awareness Week, and it actually ends today, and tomorrow is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. So we are not actually having our own Day of Remembrance, but we'd like to tell you about 3 organizations who are having a virtual celebration, not really celebration, observation, a virtual observation tomorrow night.
Would you like to
Yes.
do the first one?
So the first one is PFLAG National through their PFLAG Connects program on Friday, November 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. Central. They're going to have a special PFLAG Connects virtual vigil in honor of Transgender Day of Remembrance, led by Elizabeth Melendez Rivera. And there is a link to register on the PFLAG National website.
Another Transgender Day of Remembrance observance will be live streamed on Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central on Friday the 20th by Mosaic Health and Healing Arts in Goshen, Indiana. This observation is a collaboration of Mosaic, the LGBTQ Center, Trees, the Out Center of Southwest Michigan, St. Peter's United Church of Christ, the First Congregational United Church of Christ, Grace United Church of Christ, and members of the LGBTQ plus community. There is a link to RSVP on the Mosaic Health and Healing Arts Facebook page.
Right. And PFLAG Michigan City is also holding a virtual Transgender Day of Remembrance. Friday, this one is a little earlier. It is at, or actually they're all at the same time, aren't they? This one is at 6 p.m. Central.
These two are the same.
Okay. So the Mosaic event and the PFLAG Michigan City event, unfortunately, are at the same time. But the PFLAG Michigan City is a secular event honoring the transgender family that we have all lost in the last year. And they will post a Zoom link before the event. It is a Facebook event. So please join one of those groups in their virtual observation of the Transgender Day of Remembrance.
What we would like to do next is to get into our main topic for today's episode. And that is a continuation of a topic that we started last episode about being and or becoming an ally.
Being or becoming a good ally.
A good ally.
So just briefly, in the first episode, we told you why we chose this topic. We defined what an ally is. We described why we need allies. We talked about a little bit about the qualities of a good ally, and gave you a few resources for allies, which we will repeat those resources. What are we talking about this episode, Amari?
Well, this episode, we are going to be talking about, again, how to be a good ally. For the general LGBTQ plus community, transgender people, youth and teens, and elders specifically. We are also going to talk about some do's and don'ts of being an ally, and hopefully what an ally is not, because that's just as important. I am going to start today by actually sharing my story about being or becoming an ally with you. It's a letter I wrote this morning that I think you'll like. We'll then repeat our information that we gave you last episode concerning resources for allies. And Elizabeth will do that. So I'd like to start by, and I am not going to do this from memory, I'm going to read it. It's sort of near and dear to my heart, and I'm not going to explain any of it ahead of time because I feel that it is relatively self-explanatory. What an ally looks like to me. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, as a transgender woman, I struggle when I try to think about what I expect or desire in an ally to me or any member of the community. I think I struggle because I have not so much consciously defined specifics about the qualities and behaviors of people who would be allies, but I believe have defined subconsciously an ally by my experiences with anyone who would or could be one. Having to consciously make concrete these qualities and behaviors for this TV show topic has been a little difficult. However, I will make an attempt at this definition from my point of view. I suspect that what I write here will mirror much of the information presented in the previous episode and this episode as well. Considering myself to be a realist, idealist, a pessimist, and yet holding high expectations of people, may make this list demanding, tempered by the current social and political climate, and something I believe that may not ever be achieved in my lifetime. The items on this list come from my own experiences, my own journey, as well as those people in the LGBTQ community whom I know, and education I have given myself over the last 3+ years. The period of time I have come to know that I am transgender, bisexual, polyamorous, and that I am a woman. An ally must be open-minded, must recognize the marginalized status of members of the LGBTQ plus community, must be educated about LGBTQ plus community members' plights, must believe in the causes that LGBTQ plus community members believe, must be passionate, that is, think about, act with, and act for the LGBTQ plus community. An ally must be sincere and humble in their thoughts and actions. No thought or action by an ally is intended to glorify the ally. The work allies do is for the community, but yes, you can be proud that you are an ally and certainly make it known that you are one. Please do, through your thoughts and actions. But there should be no, look at me, I'm an ally, aren't I just great? Be a friend, a true friend. Be an educator. There are many who are afraid because they just don't know. Be an advocate. Remember the thoughts and actions I mentioned? Yes, that is being an advocate. I suppose a list of actions could be created as well. An ally must be visible. Again, take actions which let LGBTQ plus community members know that you are working on being an ally. It could be simply adding your pronouns to your work email signature, or displaying a pride flag or sticker in your office or cubicle, or welcoming or supportive signage. An ally must be consistent in all their work as an ally. Be available and attentive to encounters with LGBTQ plus people. Make absolutely no assumptions about anyone's LGBTQ plus community status. If an LGBTQ plus person is comfortable with your allyship, they may, and let them do so, share their status with you. Be aware of policies which impact the LGBTQ community, as well as politicians' stances and voting records concerning the community. And by all means, vote accordingly and take action. Understand that the plight of LGBTQ plus people is not limited to your small part of the world. The plight is statewide, nationwide, worldwide. Realize that the LGBTQ plus community is not the only marginalized community. For example, Blacks, people of color, Indigenous people, Latin American people, immigrants, Middle Eastern people, literally anyone who experiences a lack of acceptance and hate. Know that all LGBTQ plus people have different relationships with higher powers, or none at all. Do not impose your spiritual beliefs upon any person, and that goes for your political beliefs as well. Do not equate yourself with someone in the LGBTQ plus community. You do not have the experiences that they do. You only have your own. Realize that many of the people that you encounter will not have your passion for being an ally. Know that people in the LGBTQ plus community are susceptible to the same issues as many people, but more severely. For example, anxiety and depression, and really all mental health issues, suicide, tobacco, alcohol and drug abuse, homelessness and housing inequality, employment inequality, poverty, lack of medical coverage, as well as lack of competent medical and mental health care providers, though this seems to be improving, bullying, domestic issues, violence, hate, discrimination, political representation, though this too is improving, as the national election just proved, local, state, national, and international protections. Along with people who are not in the LGBTQ plus community, members of the LGBTQ plus community must also be allies for themselves and their own causes. I struggle with this less, not so much for myself as with others in the community. In general, we all are just trying to have as good a life as we possibly can. And sometimes that means staying in the closet, living stealth, or living double lives. This not only can lead to a lack of self-advocacy and underrepresentation of the community, but also fear that can lead to a low quality of life. Becoming and being an ally can be a beacon to those who need it most. Thank you.
That was beautifully written, Amari.
Thank you.
Very nice. So just briefly, I know some of you who haven't yet seen the previous episode might be saying, what the heck is an ally? I hope you got a pretty good sense of it from what Amari just described. But, you know, in us trying to help build this robust and thriving LGBTQ and ally community in Northwest Indiana, trying to help change the culture to be more affirming and inclusive, that takes allies as well, not just people in the community coming out from the corners where they might be, have felt they had to hide for a while, but it takes allies, people like you and me who just believe so strongly in equality and equity and fairness, and people are people and treating people with respect and dignity. So, Leah, do you have any thoughts yourself on being an ally?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot. I'm thankful that have that passion that's just unquenchable for being an ally, and I'm also thankful to be surrounded by people, my peers in school, or just generally in my community. We just have no room for non-acceptance. Being an ally is just it. That is just what it is coming to, and I'm very thankful to be someone that's going to educate, because I mean, with the access to the internet that we all have right here all the time, we can educate ourselves, and it's up to each individual to take that 30 seconds, that 5 minutes to really educate yourself, because it's what you got to do. It's worth it. So worth it.
Very nice. Well, you guys, those are hard acts to follow here. So, you know, I think the thing that struck me the most is, I love that term you used, Leah, of unquenchable, that your passion is unquenchable for this.
Yeah.
I like that word. I'm going to have to steal it.
Go ahead.
And then what Amari was saying about, you know, being an ally, there were a couple of things there. One, it really feels like we are needing to be the voice for those who don't otherwise have a voice or don't feel safe in using their voice. And, you know, that whole concept of the mama bear who is so fiercely protective of their LGBTQ child. I'm fiercely protective of my spouse, Amari. In fact, I will even correct people who misgender her before Amari does. But
she's quick.
The other thing that kind of resonated with me is Amari, when you spoke about allies shouldn't be in that it's not about them, you know, and how we, you know, as allies, we can't equate ourselves to people in the community or not, because we do come from a stance of privilege. I think that word is a little overused lately, but a stance of privilege that we are in a position that isn't a marginalized position, that we are not suffering, you know, the hate crimes and the discrimination that some of these marginalized communities are. So I think it's just so important to stay humble and constantly be doing this for the people that can't do it themselves, not for you. So that really struck me.
I think the privilege that people experience not being in the LGBTQ plus community, but being an ally to that community and other marginalized communities for that matter, puts more weight, gives more power to the movement of basically, essentially striving for equality and equity for everyone. I think the LGBTQ community alone could do it, but why not have as many people on your side, even if they're not in your community, to help you along? There are many organizations that you can find on the internet, like HRC and ACLU, and others that are specific to the trans community or specific to the LGBTQ community, or virtually any marginalized community that an ally can get on board with and add to the power of that movement.
Mhm.
I think something I see too, or have experienced myself, is the fear of messing up at being an ally. But it's better to have a messy ally that's trying and making productive mistakes than not. I mean, the hardest part is starting with anything. So just taking that first step could really be anything. And we just have to be brave enough and encourage other people that it's okay to make mistakes in becoming an ally, because you're only going to learn from it and make somebody else's life more inclusive and easier.
And by the way that you handle yourself making a mistake, you can be a role model for others.
Absolutely.
Earlier this week, I helped to do a presentation at my workplace on the use of personal pronouns. And part of that is exactly what you said. People are so scared about, what if I make a mistake? You know, it isn't the end of the world. You just admit your mistake and you move on. You try to learn, you know, maybe that person corrected you right then and there. Maybe somebody else did, but you just, I'm so sorry. You make your correction, you move on. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Unfortunately, some of those mistakes can be disastrous mistakes. So I think there should also be, in the allies' mind, confidentiality and privacy concerns in dealing with people. You don't want to make a mistake for a person in the community in front of a large group.
Oh.
That could be disastrous for that person.
Yeah, that comes out to, you know, you don't out anybody that's not already out or hasn't given you express permission to do so.
I think that's also part of what I wrapped up into my list item about don't make assumptions. I mean, as an ally, you could have the thought, well, I just know that that person's gay, right? So you talk at them or to them as if you know they're gay. Well, guess what? Maybe it's just that person's expression and they are decidedly not gay. So you really need to approach people as an ally as knowing nothing about that person and letting them tell you.
So there are ways to create that safe space or safe feeling that people are, you know, can talk to you. For instance, when I introduce myself to people at work or at, you know, near my home or in the grocery store, not that I go to the grocery store right now.
Not right now.
But, you know, I will introduce myself with my pronouns because I'm trying to help mainstream that behavior. Where again, it comes down to not making those assumptions based on how somebody looks or talks or acts or moves. And so if I say, hi, my name is Elizabeth, I go by she, her, hers, that kind of opens the door a little bit, that person knows that I am at least accepting of, you know, the LGBTQ community. Maybe they will feel free to talk to me or to introduce their pronouns, or maybe they won't, and that's okay too.
And that's also that's a good in for somebody to say, what the heck are you talking about? Like, what if they don't know about pronouns at all? And then you can just kindly explain to them. And I mean, I'm sure they'll talk about that to somebody else. Like, wow, I learned something pretty phenomenal today.
That's
And
So,
I'll say that, let's say as an example, in a work environment, you have your pride flag sticker on your cubicle so everyone can see as they pass by, and someone stops by your cubicle and says, hey, I see you have a pride flag there. Well, that could be an opening that that person wants to have a conversation with you as an ally, maybe because they don't know what that means, maybe because they want to be an ally, or maybe they're part of the community. But in the cubicle environment, you are right next door or surrounded by other workers.
6 feet away though.
Well, or maybe not. Maybe you're working from home. But the point is that, be creative about making sure that confidentiality and privacy are guaranteed. Ask that person to take a walk with you. Ask that person to go to the company cafeteria, if that exists, and find a isolated table and talk. You don't have to be within earshot of all your other coworkers.
Talked a little bit about, some personal viewpoints. And again, there are just a wealth of resources online. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about some of these lists of how to be a good ally, what not to do as an ally, the do's and the don'ts. And I think we're going to start with a do's and don'ts list. Some of this might be a little bit repetitive because Amari's list was so good, but I don't think it hurts to hear it more than once. And Leah, please feel free to chime in as you would like.
gotcha.
All right. So the University of Illinois Springfield had what we thought was a really good list on the do's and don'ts of being a good ally. It's titled How to React When Someone Comes Out, Do's and Don'ts for Straight Allies. So do you want to start, Amari?
Sure.
All right.
So do listen to what he, she, or they have to say and let them set the tone of the conversation. Listening shows respect and also helps put the person at ease. Be serious or casual depending upon whether they're serious or casual. However, if they seem upset, comfort them. Don't underestimate the power of encouraging words or a hug if it's appropriate for your relationship.
Right. Don't rush them or fill in the blanks. Let your friend take as much time as they need. So if you hurry them to get to the point or you interrupt before they're finished, you say, oh, okay, you're LGBT. In other words, you're kind of trivializing the situation, and you might be making them feel uncomfortable or self-conscious. So don't rush them. Don't fill in the blanks. Let them say what they want to say because it is their story and they're choosing to tell you.
Your reaction can be interpreted by your friend as an assumption about them or a judgment of them, which of course, as an ally, you don't want either to happen. Do ask appropriate questions. Think about your relationship with this person before they came out. How close are they? How many personal details have you shared in the past? Use discretion. Questions that are appropriate for your best friend or your brother might cross a line with a new acquaintance or a coworker.
So do ask appropriate questions. Don't ask about the person's sex life or their sexually transmitted infection or HIV status. It's very rude and condescending. You wouldn't want somebody to ask you those types of questions. So by coming out, your friend is seeking acceptance as an LGBTQ person, emphasis on person, not as a walking sexual fetish or different sort of being. So even if you're very close and you've both discussed sex before, it's still not an appropriate question to ask.
In a lot of cases, that's really, it absolutely is up to the person who's coming out to you. It's their responsibility to share whatever information they feel they want or need to share with you.
I don't think a responsibility, we need a different word there. It's not their responsibility to share it, it's their right?
Okay.
I don't know.
What I meant by that was it's not up to the person
The listener.
being told, the listener, it's not that person's responsibility to try to draw that information from them.
Yes.
Be honest when you don't understand. Just remember to be polite and respectful.
And a note here, and we might be getting to this, but acceptance does sometimes take time. So somebody might have, like, you might be terrified when you first hear this. You might be worried when you first hear this. You might be so confused you don't know what to do. That's okay. Everybody goes through a process as well when somebody comes out to them, especially when it was an unexpected divulgence.
There's a segment of the last episode that actually covers that case, either a positive or negative reaction to your coming out. That actually, that was in the coming out episode. That this harkens to. Ooh.
You had a great idea. I could see it.
It came and it went. Oh, 8:30, Bill. There's a break here, Bill, which is really 8:20.
Leah, do you have access to this document?
Yes, but it's small. I didn't reprint it, so it's on here.
Oh,
so I
okay. I was going to let you read some of them if you wanted to, but
I can read something else, but not that.
We were talking about being honest when you don't understand, be polite and respectful. It takes time to process. Give them time.
And then I started to say something about good, negative or positive reactions. I don't know. We did such a great job, in my opinion, about things for people on the other side of the coin for someone who's coming out, what they should really take to heart. And that includes, even if your reaction is negative and anger or disappointment or whatever, you need to realize that it may just take time. Give yourself time. So step back from that anger, step back from that disappointment. Don't let it supercharge your emotions so dramatically. That will not serve the person coming out to you very well.
Right. Again, it's not about you. It's this person's story. So, Leah, did you have any do's or don'ts you want to throw in here?
Yes. I would say, sorry. Basically, I would, like, everybody says put yourself in someone else's shoes, but when we really think about the bravery it takes to come out or tell someone the deepest truth about you that you're so scared to admit, really just practice active listening. Like, be an active listener, because that is a job within itself, active listening. It's not easy to do, but do it. Because for the first time in your life, and really, if you have nothing nice to say, just accept it and let yourself marinate on it. And, you know, in a week's time, maybe you'll be like, you know, okay.
Yeah, it's really important. That person has put their trust in you. That person is so important to you that you decide to come out to them.
Yeah.
And it comes back to what Elizabeth said, both of you said, about just being humble. And
Talk a little bit more, Leah, about being an active listener, because not everyone might understand that.
So being an active listener, when you're in a conversation with someone, if someone said the sky is blue, by the time they say the sky, you're already thinking about what you want to say back. So instead of forming your own thought because we think so quickly, listen to the whole sentence. Really listen to it and don't form your own response. Just hear. So
I remember learning about some communication skill in my past where it's sort of a three exchange sort of thing. Number one is someone says something to you. That's an exchange of information one way. And that person who is listening actively then can choose to say back to the person that very same thing, to show that person that they heard them and that they understand. And the third part of that, the third transaction, is that person saying back to them, yes, you understand, or no, you don't understand. Let me explain further. I don't know if that's part of active listening.
That's exactly it. And if you're a good active listener, you practice that, you don't even need to make your own comment. You can just reiterate what they said, which will be affirming for them if you're not yet ready to say something.
Very nice.
Excellent.
I think you're doing the don'ts.
Yep. All right. So don't use slang terms or offensive language. Again, we're talking not just about coming out, we're talking about being a good ally. So don't use slang terms or offensive language. There is a glossary of common accepted terms on the UIS LGBTQA Resource Office website. However, every person is different, and a term embraced by one person might be offensive to someone else. When in doubt, ask how they prefer to identify, or call them by name, or, say, just don't make assumptions about that, because one of the words is the term queer, which is in, many people have that in LGBTQ acronym. But there is almost an entire generation of people for whom that is very offensive, and they don't want to be used, want to be called queer. They don't like the term, and they feel it should be LGBT. It doesn't mean that they don't think people are queer or questioning in essence. It's just, it was used in a very derogatory manner for many years. And it can be one of those terms that is just not.
I'll go out on a limb here. It's the older generations that are offended by the word queer, and it's actually the younger generations of queer people who have reclaimed that term queer.
Right. But
I was actually a little surprised by that, because I really only know queer as a word to be proud of, which now that you said that, it's so obvious, but people that identify as queer are proud usually to be queer. So
that that whole generation where, it just wasn't a good thing to be known to be in the community, and they got harassed and discriminated against and everything.
That particular action, reclaiming something that has been used negatively or derogatorily towards someone, there's a lot of power in reclaiming that term in whatever community it is. And there are other examples, none of which I can name right now.
Right. But again, it is individual, right? So one person may be able to do it. One person may say, go for it, but I can't. And, we all.
Absolutely.
Yes. What terms you can use with someone really is also based on your level of association with that person, which I think was something else that there was some other topic that was mentioned for that.
Yeah.
If you know someone very, very well, then perhaps that person would not be as offended if it were a stranger.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Do remember the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity. Sexual orientation is about the kind of people you are attracted to. Gender identity is about how you relate to your ascribed gender role and your body. Don't confuse being lesbian, gay, or bisexual with being transgender. Gay men don't want to be women, and lesbians don't want to be men. If someone comes out as trans, don't tell them they're just gay or actually a lesbian.
Right. So we've described the differences between sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, gender attribution in prior episodes. So they are very distinct things and shouldn't be confused. So don't answer I'm LGBTQ with, well, duh. Even if you've always suspected this person was a member of the LGBTQ community, it can be polite, impolite, or even offensive to point this out. Your friend may feel ashamed that it's taken them so long to come out, and they don't need to be reminded of that struggle. If they do ask if you've suspected they were LGBTQ, answer honestly, but please, respectfully.
I have a comment about this.
Okay.
Again, it's don't make assumptions about a person. Yeah, perhaps we've all heard the term gaydar, but I mean, don't count on that. Don't let your interpretation of a person's expression try to guide you in determining what that person is, judging what that person is. Rather,
who they like, or
have a conversation with them if that's warranted. Another important one, do ask about confidentiality and reassure them of your confidence. Is he or she telling everyone or just you? While some people come out to everyone all at once, others come out in gradual stages, like me. If this person isn't going public, make sure they know they can trust you to keep the information to yourself until they are ready for others to know.
So we have a lot of cases, with our PFLAG members that somebody may be out at work, but not at home. Somebody may be out at home, but not at school, those types of things. So it's, when somebody does come out, it's important for you to understand where they are and aren't going to be out. Even if it's confusing for you to use one set of pronouns in one situation and another set in another situation, it's still really important to do. Oh, my turn.
I think you're doing the don'ts.
I'm doing the don'ts, yep. So don't take it personally, or assume that this means that, and it's funny because in this printout that I have, it says, it keeps saying he or she, and it really should be he, she, they, zir, whatever. So don't take it personally or assume that this person has a crush on you.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that happens. I've heard stories of
It's
that.
so much.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah.
It is weird.
It is, but
It's so weird.
See it happening. Yeah. So coming out can be very daunting, and no closeted LGBTQ person ever intends to betray or deceive someone that they care about. There are many reasons why somebody would wait to come out. Don't jump to the conclusion that they've been harboring secret feelings for you. It could make you defensive, and they might feel uncomfortable or self-conscious as a result. So just a quick thing on pronouns, since I just did this at work. If to avoid making assumptions about he or she or they, or basically whatever pronoun somebody may use general terms, like say, oh, that person over there, instead of he or she or they or he, just say that person there, that type of thing, and that will help you avoid making those kind of mistakes.
Do thank them for trusting you. There's a reason this person is confiding in you. They respect you, feel comfortable with you, and value your relationship. They also may wish to form a stronger connection by sharing something so personal.
That doesn't mean they have a crush on you.
Mean they have a crush.
All right. Don't bring up politics or religion
offer unsolicited advice, or make rash decisions. Don't tell them how they feel either. All of that is very disrespectful. This person isn't coming out to you because they want to have a debate. Don't suggest that they might be confused or need counseling. If you disagree over LGBT issues, there will be other opportunities to have a polite discussion, but this is not the discussion to have that in. Try to keep an open mind. We heard that before.
It is my belief that those kinds of reactions sent to a person who's coming out can be totally disastrous. That can send a person back into the closet and back into a life that includes all of those negative aspects of not being able to be your true self.
Yeah. So those have been a lot of do's and don'ts of what to do as an ally when somebody comes out to you. But I'd like to get a little bit more into the general ally advice too. So you could be an ally not in situations other than somebody just coming out to you. So Amari kind of touched on a few of these, but you want to be visible as an ally. Even if you aren't working in cubicle land right now, maybe you're working from home, your backdrop could reflect some sort of pride symbol or the things that you wear. You know, it kind of gives people that opening. So you want to be visible. Passionately search for understanding. So we, as allies, we aren't all going to hit the ground running and be expert allies, right? We're going to make mistakes. We start out thinking, oh, I think I want to support this person. And then maybe that's all it is you are showing positive thoughts or affirmation to this one person. There's different stages that we talked about last time of being an ally. Everywhere from, supporting the community all the way up to advocating for policy change. And it's okay to be anywhere on that ally spectrum as well. So you need to search for your own understanding. You need to get educated. And we're hoping through this TV show or podcast that we're helping to educate some of you out there.
I think with that, I mean, for my peers, especially social media, people use Instagram and Facebook like crazy. And so if you have, say, one consistent post, like once a month, something specifically allied like, people are going to see it. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people have over 1,000 followers and scrolling every day. So even one thing, just be consistent. Like it said, be a consistent ally. People are going to take note and they're going to see it. They're going to be exposed. And eventually that exposure is going to become more normal and more friendly. And it's just going to make more sense.
That's a great way of putting that. And I mean, yeah, you do lose friends sometimes or family when they don't have the same ways of thinking as you. But.
Yeah, that's a whole topic unto itself.
Yep.
Part of which we've covered in a previous episode.
So there's a way to be an ally to the general community, but then there's also kind of these segments of the population that maybe have their own unique aspects, like being a youth or being transgender or being an elder LGBT person. You want to talk to any of the transgender or youth parts?
Let's talk a little bit about the being an ally for the LGBTQ youth.
Okay.
One of the things that I've seen in my short history of knowing that I'm transgender and getting to know the community as best I can is that it's not just adults that are in the community. There are many, many, many youth at very young ages who are already confident about their gender identities, and it's very important that they get support. They are in some ways more vulnerable to things than adults are. And that is why a parental or guardian ally for that youth is absolutely a mandatory thing. In my opinion, you could make or break a child and how
Absolutely.
you treat them.
Yeah. I recently learned, I don't have the source off the top of my head, but by the age of 4, a person knows their gender identity. By the age of 4, we are taught to gender, and you know within yourself, which it's so a lot of people say, like with LGBTQ issues, oh, well, they're too young. We don't want to burden them with that yet. Like on the topic of like, say, children's books in the classrooms with LGBTQ people, but it doesn't work. That doesn't work anymore, because how many of those kids are LGBTQ? How many are they going to be? So if it doesn't work for all the kids, like pushing it away until later, we're no longer helping by saying, oh, they can deal with it when they grow up, because it's now.
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's great.
And a fallout of that is that if that parent or guardian couldn't deal with it when their child is just a child, guess what?
Yeah.
When that child becomes an adult, they are not going to deal with it any better.
Yeah, it'll really, really set them forward. I mean, they're just going to have to relearn it all by themselves anyway. So, yeah.
So, very important, listen to LGBTQ youth.
Yep.
They're not telling you a story. They're telling you something about themselves.
So, and I know we don't have a lot of time left in this episode, so we may, run this topic into a future episode too, or hit some of the particular parts of the community. But a really important one to me that has come up a lot in my reading and in my hearing stories is about being a role model. Like you said, Leah, if you are consistent in posting supportive messages, somebody will see that, either another ally or somebody in the community, and they will know that, you've got their back, or, oh, this person is doing that, maybe I can do that, or, oh, this person is doing that, I feel better about X, So I think being a role model through words, through actions, through thoughts, I think it's all really, really important.
And
Yeah.
go ahead, Leah.
I was just going to say, starting small, like just even the smallest things, people, if you're trans or gay or lesbian, you're going to see that. You're going to see that small little subtle thing that person did, and hopefully it'll make you feel really good.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we're not talking about parents or guardians of only LGBTQ kids, but parents of any child or guardians of any child, that wanting to promote inclusivity and compassion and love is something that you would bestow on any child, no matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so important.
And it doesn't stop with children. It's people too, adult people. And I think the last one I want to talk about this time is standing up for them. So being an advocate, again, it doesn't mean that you have to go rewrite policy. It just means that if somebody misgenders Amari when we're out, I'm going to, jump in there and correct them so that they will gender her correctly. Or it might mean that I hear somebody talking badly about somebody who is bisexual, and I will say something. If I hear something or see something wrong, then I will say something to attempt to correct that situation, or to at least make it known that that's offensive. I will stand up for them whether they're in the room or not, right? So it's easy for me to do when we're next to each other. It's also easy for me to do when Amari's, I don't know, upstairs and I'm downstairs because now I'm working. So. But you know what I mean? Like if I'm in a group of people and Amari is not there, I still will stand up for her and I will tell them, no, it's really, she goes by she, her, hers, or whatever it may be. So do
Nice.
either of you have any parting advice for being a good ally?
Wow.
I know there's so much more. Oh my goodness.
Understand that everyone on the face of this earth, of this species, is a human being, not someone that, or something that needs to be oppressed or killed or ridiculed. We are all here for the same kinds of reasons. We all have the same day-to-day activities. We all have children and raise families and have pets and work a job and go to school and go to church or practice yoga. And your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your gender expression has no bearing on any of that.
The color of your hair, the color of the clothes you wear.
Everything.
Yeah. I would say to allies, be brave. Be braver. Like, risk it. What do you have to lose? I mean, do it. Do it anyway. Do it all anyway. Start somewhere. Just get up and start and say something. Say anything. And the confidence is only going to build and get stronger.
That's great. And there's more than one way to learn how to be a good ally. There's support groups.
Yeah.
PFLAG.
Big.
That organization was founded to help support family and friends and parents of people in the community.
Ally makers.
Ally makers.
Yes.
Yep. So please just reach out. Amari, do you want to go into any of the news articles or should we talk about the resources?
I think we're at time today, so let's conclude our program for today.
Okay.
I will mention this, the news has been fast and furious and hot lately. Now that we're a couple of weeks past the election, the stories are starting to settle down a little bit. If we were to have done this show a couple of weeks ago, I would have had nothing but bad news stories for you. But there are some good stories happening. I'll mention one real quickly. Many LGBTQ people got elected to political positions in this election all over the United States, even in states that one might not think LGBTQ people are even accepted. So forward progress.
That's good. If you are in crisis, if you're depressed, if you're having issues, help is just a phone call or a text or a browser away. And we have this list of resources that you can reach out to. Our phone numbers are also in that little white bar on the side. And we're here for you. So please make use of those resources.
Reach out if you need to.
And Leah, thank you so much for joining us today. I know people will see more of you here. And
yes, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you again to the Bill and Callie Show, who are producing our show, and to their sponsors.
And we will see you again next time. Thanks for watching.
2 weeks from now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by Sip Coffee House 2 in Highland, Indiana on Jewett Avenue. Great coffee, lattes, smoothies, and more. Food and treats you will adore. Small town charm with big city selection. It's Sip Coffee House 2.